welcome in, guys. We're just sitting here, two guys talking comics. Just wanted to go over some stuff. I had my friend Joel Carroll bring in some stuff. He brought this Arthur Adams book that we're going to look at. And if you don't know who Arthur Adams is, Joel, kind of give him an idea.
Art Adams kind of came around in the mid-'80s, mid-'50s.
Mid-'50s? It seems like the mid-'50s.
The mid-'80s. And you wouldn't be like X-Men 97 and the X-Men cartoon wouldn't exist if it wasn't for this guy.
Really? You think so?
Yeah, definitely.
Why's that?
Because all the Image founders and the people that like restarted the X-Men craze were all inspired by him.
Yeah. I know they were trying to draw like him. Now I remember the first thing that I ever saw they did was Long Shot. And it was like a mini series.
Well, that's the crazy thing is that I remember, and the crazy thing about this book is this entire
is the tome.
Stinking tome. It like weighs at least 25, 30 pounds. I don't know how much that weighs.
Yeah, that's got at least 15, if not that.
And so they actually have the little blurb in there from Marvel Age. And I remember reading that in 1985 when I was like 11. Reading about this new book called Long Shot. And then it never came out here in... Like I ended up paying like $20 for each issue like years later.
Really? I bought them off the newsstand here in Lenore.
I never saw it.
Oh, okay. But Anna Shetty wrote them, who later became the X-Men editor. She was the editor of the X-Men. And I remember seeing it, and he drew in such a unique style. It was just really kind of different, a lot of detail, and it looked incredibly detailed. I mean, so you knew it took him a lot of time, and I guess that's why the book never come out.
Well, yeah, Long Shot, I think the first issue took him 8 months to draw.
Yeah, and it's crazy. If you go back, and the printing technique then was using the rag paper and everything. The lines just spread. I mean, there's some of that detail is just totally lost. And that's one of the things about collecting original art that you see is you see how fine some of the details get, and then at some points they just go, forget it, it's not going to show up.
Yeah.
So they kind of knew, you know.
Well, also Art Adams was definitely inspired by Walt Simonson and Mike Golden. But they didn't. Walt did a bunch of stuff, but Mike Golden didn't do as much because he was another slowpoke. Yeah,
he was a slowpoke, but at the same time, at that time, wasn't he like some kind of visual editor at Marvel or something? He was over
in the
covers.
90s. Like he became the art director.
Yeah, I knew he was something. That he was a house guy that did stuff for him for a while. But I guess was that when Nam come out? Now we're jumping all over the place.
No, that was when he was just freelance.
Oh, okay.
I've got weird stories. I've got weird stories about like the groups of artists, and it's funny how like you'll find that groups of artists will congeal. Like for example, like after Long Shot and in like '85 in like the late '80s, Arthur Adams like was getting more work, and he ended up like rooming or like living in the same apartment complex as Steve Moncuce of Fish Police.
Oh, okay.
And Mike Mignola, and so like they all like lived in the same. With Steve Purcell, who did Sam and Max.
Yeah.
And he works for Pixar now. He co-directed Brave and did some of the Toy Story stuff.
Cool. But I remember as a kid, or I guess a high school kid, picking these things up. And when Arthur Adams did draw like the X-Men, it would be like an annual or something. It would be something he had plenty of time to work on it. Like I remember the one where they all went to Asgard and Storm became like goddess of thunder.
Well, that was the crazy thing is that Arthur Adams was known for being slow, but after Long Shot, his most productive period was between like 85 and 88. And like he was like working like every month and like putting out books like all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, those he did 2 back-to-back annuals, the New Mutants annual, and then X-Men number 9 annual.
Yeah.
And that was Asgardian.
Yeah.
And somehow Alpha Flight worked in there too,
but it was like a 2-issue. I mean, first of all, an annual was like, you know, it came out each summer.
It was like a 64-page
64-page book, so a double or triple size book. because usually they do 20 pages. So it would come out then, but then this one, you know, it not only had the X-Men, but then he also did the one for the New Mutants. So that summer you had like 2 pretty thick books that covered that whole story. But I just remember picking up his stuff whenever I saw it. I still buy his stuff. Like, I'm a big Walking Dead collector, and the Walking Dead covers, they keep redoing Walking Dead. Robert Kirkman just, you know, keeps reprinting it over and over again. This time in color, this time whatever. Well, the color version that's out now is called Deluxe, and I've been picking up only the Arthur Adams covers because I've bought the book so many times. But I was like, you know, I hunt those out because they're so cool. But he's been to Heroes Con in Charlotte, the local big con, the big state con, I guess you would say. And I met him then and had him sign a copy of Creature of the Black Lagoon. He had done a Creature of the Black Lagoon comic for Dark Horse. And he basically just reinterpreted the movie. It was the movie. It was just drawn in his style and so cool. And he's known for redoing comic book covers and stuff. I've seen some famous covers like the Thor Silver Surfer fight cover, you know. Or
one of the big heartbreaking things about Art is that he doesn't do many interior pages for comics anymore, because he's gotten to the point of where like he makes more on a cover or a single illustration than he will an entire book.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, why would he go through that storytelling? And that's something people don't realize is you can be a great artist, but being able to tell the visual story and go from panel to panel, that's actually part of the art and the hard part about it. Well, what's in here? Because I know I probably bought all these books individually when they came out.
Well, one funny thing about the cover is that there are also 2 covers. There's a limited edition cover that was a redone of an X-Men thing or whatever. But this thing is pricey. This is like $130.
Yeah, because it's an omnibus. The omnibus
and
are
it came
all
out
around
like
$100.
It came out like November of last year. I found this one on eBay for $70, and I hear that you can get it for cheaper. I still think it's worth it.
Yeah,
but man, $130 is a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
but this cover originally came out for a holiday special back in 1991. But what's cool about this one is they redid it where they were chasing Santa Claus.
Oh, okay.
And then they changed it where they're chasing Art himself.
But and he's when he was at Heroes Con and I saw him, which was maybe sometime in the like 2010 around there, somewhere around there. But he, I remember him not bending over a table. He stood and put a chair on the table so he could sign the books and not have to lean over.
Right.
So I don't know how bad his back is from sitting at the drawing board all the time, but
yeah, I think that like just like staring down. That was the crazy thing about everyone gives John Byrne crap for John Byrne brings like a higher chair and like a kind of a podium.
Yeah.
So he can look straight at the people, so he doesn't have to crane his neck.
Well, that's cool.
A million times or whatever. No, and everyone thinks he's being a princess.
Well, it is John Byrne.
It is John Byrne.
He can be a bit of a princess.
And
sometimes.
another cool thing is that if you look underneath, they have like the pencils, not of the cover, but like of some of the stuff he did.
Some of the stuff. And see, that's another thing in the comic market right now. There's a lot of artist editions and stuff out right now that they're starting to come out. It used to be that people collected the original art, and then now it's so expensive that people are actually printing the original art the way it looks so that you can learn a little bit about the drawing, how they did it.
The tough thing is that they match the size of the paper, 11 by 17. So you got these books.
Yeah, you talk about a coffee table sized book, but it's actually the size of a coffee table.
Right, and like there's just nowhere to store them.
I've got one. I've got Alien that Walt Simonson did from Heavy Metal. That's the only one I've bought.
They usually come like in a slipcover, like in a cardboard slipcover that keeps them from bending up. Like I got the Xenozoic Tales or Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Yeah, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs.
Ended up selling it because I didn't know where to put it.
Oh, really?
I had nowhere to stick it.
But they're so huge. Good grief. That is quite the book.
There's like a bunch of stuff in here, but there's an introduction by Frank Cho. We'll just go by there. But I thought this was cool that it actually has his Marvel samples.
Oh, wow.
of like what he'd sent. And then he added this Wolverine thing. He didn't necessarily like the X-Men, and he really wasn't into Wolverine, but he thought that, well, he might as well put a character in there.
It's weird because you can see where he's going. That he's not quite Arthur Adams yet.
Yeah, it's definitely like there's a kind of crazy, like I was talking about before, both Mike Mignola, who did Hellboy, and Arthur Adams, both of them were working with Steve Purcell.
Yeah.
And like there's stuff, if you look back at Steve Purcell, who did like High Adventure, and he did like a whole bunch of like little one-shots for Marvel, this looks like Steve Purcell. Like, and I guess that he was the older guy.
Yeah, so they were copying him.
Yeah, and he was the one that was getting more work at the time.
That's crazy. I wanted to see the blue lines, you know.
Yeah, and it said that he took a long time doing the long shot because he had a problem with perspective, and just like these shots right here aren't bad for like, he probably was like 17 or 18.
Yeah.
And then supposedly he first got paid doing a Captain Carrot in the Zoo Crew. Roy Thomas paid him $10 to do a pinup.
Oh, wow.
But that was for DC, so
Yeah.
it won't show up in here. But this is all of his Marvel work. And I don't know. Like, I guess he was doing covers. He actually got to do covers before interiors. But at the same time, I think he was probably working on long shot at the same time.
Yeah. Now that Marvel team-up cover, I wouldn't have ever thought that he did that the way it looks. I can see it in Black Widow's face.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is so generic looking. It looks like, I think, who was drawing Spider-Man then? Ed Hannigan or somebody like that. And it's like, it looks so generic, you just think that that's what it is.
It's kind of funny.
Oh, and he gave her long hair. In the pencils, you can see she's got long hair. And then they made him go with the new updated look that she had at the time, which was the gray. She had short hair, and Frank Miller did that, I guess, in Daredevil. So she had the short hair and the gray outfit.
Yeah, there's a lot of Mike Golden
Looking stuff, yeah.
Yeah. It's like I've tried to talk to Mike Golden like 3 times at shows, and artists are weird.
Well, he's just really quiet.
Yeah.
Anytime I've talked to him, he's just really quiet.
Yeah, there's a story I got to tell you about him later.
Not doing that on camera.
Well, it's third party.
don't want to say.
And there's like Ann Nesenti.
Yeah, there you go.
And like there's a character in Long Shot that pretty much looks like her.
Yeah.
And so here it is. I can't believe I'm so jealous that you just picked it up off the stands.
I bought each issue off the stand, and I remember that ad, that house
I remember that ad, and I remember this in Marvel Age, and thinking, oh, this guy can draw. This is kind of cool. The only thing I was worried about was that it was like this new character that had nothing to do with the Marvel Universe.
Well, and I was trying to think of how close to the new universe that was, because the new universe was so badly received. I just remember how long everybody's thighs were.
Yeah.
I remember that being part of his style, was that people had these really long thighs.
Well, that's what Mike Mignola did, the same thing. He would have these kind of extended thighs as well.
But I mean, look at all that. That's just crazy.
This is representative of like the early 90s, of where everyone like did a million lines. From Rob Liefeld to his group.
Now, being a teenager at the time, I remember going to comic book shows and the artists complaining because everybody was doing everything with pens, like rapidograph, instead of using a brush. And they were like, look, they got no brush technique whatsoever. They don't know anything. And you're like, what?
Yeah, I remember seeing Steve Purcell's work and like really thinking that I've got to learn how to do a brush. And I eventually like learned how to do a brush.
Yeah.
And then I read an interview with him where he goes, no, I faked it with pens. I never learned how to use a brush. He goes, I know how to use it now. Because he became a pretty good painter.
But you do learn, I mean, because especially black ink is like so kind of unforgiving, but it is like water. So you learn how to do a pen, but I mean the detail like that is nothing you're going to get except from a rapidograph. I mean, you couldn't even do that with a dip pen, like with a normal.
Yeah, one cool thing is that they have like all the sketches for the covers, and then oh my God, they've got so they've got the entire Long Shot miniseries, but then I was really impressed with the back matter, that they have like the entire script.
Oh, cool.
They have like from the initial that was the early sketch. Oh, I guess Carl Potts did that. Carl Potts was one of those guys that he was mostly an editor. Then he would draw something, and he was like, "Why aren't you drawing a book?"
Well, not only that, I met him at one of the local cons and was talking to him about a color cover he had done of Doctor Strange, and he'd done this cover of Doctor Strange, and he had done it with back then they had so many different techniques, but there was like. It was a color film, like Letraset made a color film that you put down to make this solid color. And it was like Doctor Strange with this red circle around him. And I just remember that I was talking to him, I was like, man, I always loved that cover. And he was like, well, he was just stunned. He was like, thank you so much. Thank you that you really, he said, seriously, did you really like that cover that much as a kid? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I remember seeing that. And I wondered how they did the color. And then that's Letraset. And this, he went in to explain the process. But he had another book that he did that was like about dragons from space. It wasn't Fin Fang Foom and that stuff, but it was something in epic, and there were shoguns and the dragons were from space and could talk, and it was really kind of cool.
I don't remember that at all.
Well, it was something that was only in epic, which epic was Marvel's version of heavy metal, which was only out for wasn't a whole lot of time, but
yeah, I stopped on this page because these are the sketches for Long Shot. And what's kind of cool is that this one right here, I remember Art Adams talking about how no one had really seen his spine, this design of his spine, because Long Shot comes from a planet that they don't have spines.
Oh, yeah, because Mojo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Long Shot's one of the few people that actually like have a spine. But this is like, I finally saw it in this book, and it's been like I've heard about this for like 40 years?
Yeah. But not only that, he only has 3 fingers, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's got like the animated kind of Mickey Mouse hands.
Well, yeah, the planet that he comes from is ruled by a guy named Mojo, who kind of is like Baron Harkonnen in a way. He's got this like just this obese, weird
it's just
producer.
A big blob in a metallic
but he's a TV producer.
Suit. Yeah.
And so like having 3 fingers and like all this like weird stuff, it's like he's a cartoon character.
Oh, okay.
Like for the movies that he would make. All the weirdos that showed up. God, there's too many pages, like onions.
There's too many pages. Too big a book.
Yeah, here's some of the early Mojo designs.
Yeah, I always was kind of creeped out by Mojo. He just seemed gross.
And Gog and Magog. And Anna Senti. That's pretty much what Mojo looked like.
Yeah. Gross. I just thought he looked gross.
Well, he was supposed to, he was supposed to be the everything. He's got Micronaut.
Oh, wow.
Micronaut backpack. Yeah, he and Michael Golden would sneak in toy designs. And then on top of like having like all the script stuff, they have all the pencils.
Dang.
For the entire stinking book. And like I just was like, when I first was going through this, I'm like, they're gonna put all of it in here, aren't they? So it's like well worth. Oh yeah, and then the little rascals showed up. Oh my God, so much back matter. And then it finally gets to the New Mutants, the Asgardian Wars. And that's pretty much where I first got to see it. And like, what's kind of crazy is that I got the first 2 books, the first 2 annuals, like at Curie Beach, going to the beach for vacation. And then the next year, I got the next annual. And so it was like this weird Art Adams Curie Beach
thing. I remember we went to North Myrtle. I don't know, other than just being the north part of town, but it's supposed to be a separate town. But we went to North Myrtle as a kid, and I remember all the comics I picked up at the 7-Eleven and stuff then.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, just the stuff that you would get.
People would say like it's so weird that like I remember every toy that I bought and where I bought it pretty much.
Yeah,
for the most part.
We kind of had you do have a memory of some of that stuff.
Oh, here was the one where is it? They just showed it in that one. That Art Adams drew the character Warlock turn into this spaceship.
Yeah.
And it's a Star Wars toy. It was one of their little mini rigs.
Yeah.
And that right there is from Dougram, a Japanese robot.
Yeah.
They thought I wouldn't know, but...
But you did.
And like, I don't know, like, compared to like the early 80s for Marvel, they had a house style that you just kind of had to match either Ramita or Kirby.
Yeah.
And this stuff was just mind-blowing.
Well, it was new and it was fresh, and that was kind of, it was the same kind of thing when Todd McFarlane come around, even though Todd McFarlane's not the draftsman that Arthur Adams is, but he drew in his own way, and it was just kind of a shock, but at the same time it was so different that it was cool.
Oh, there's
Gumby.
Arthur Adams sneaking in Gumby again.
Yeah. Which he puts Gumby in a lot of stuff. He did a Gumby special, didn't he, at one company?
With Bob Burden, who used to do the Flaming Carrot.
Yeah, the Flaming Carrot.
Yeah, and then here's the second part of it.
Yeah, I just remember those books, and remember the summer. Oh, I guess it was that was when I graduated high school. So
85.
85, yeah.
Yep, summer of 85.
Summer 85. So I was sitting around reading this, wondering if I was going to go to college or not. I did. But
are we that far apart? Because I was 12.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about 7 years, 7 something.
Just pages on pages. What I really kind of dig is that they recreated the color. This is what the color actually looked like in the comics.
Yeah, it is.
Crappier paper back then.
Yeah.
But
that is the color.
And then they started getting into, he did the, Ann Nocenti asked him to do this cover for the Heroes for Hope was for African famine relief.
Yeah. Yeah, Marvel and DC both did something that year. And
well, that was when...
Heroes for Hunger was DC's, I think.
Now, what was the big...
We Are the World.
We Are the World.
Yeah, We Are the World, and Do They Know It's Christmas, and all that stuff. All that was around that time period. X-Men costume designs. Oh, and there's the... Yeah, that's the cover layout for that New Mutants.
Makes it look so easy right there.
It looks a little more Ditko right there. Ditko's another cartoonist.
That's what, man, going on about Ditko, that's so weird. Ayn Rand made a thing called objectivism because everyone was doing it. Like L. Ron Hubbard was creating Scientology.
Yeah. And
all that. And like the only person in the world who like took objectivism seriously was Steve Ditko.
Apparently, yeah. And it's still confusing to me. I mean, I've watched The Fountainhead. What's the movie with a guy? I can't even remember the actor's name. But anyway, there was a version of The Fountainhead that came out in the 40s, and it was just And the guy tries to explain it. The actor, oh God, what's his name? Gary Cooper, I guess. But it's Gary Cooper, and he's standing there, and he gives this long speech of, if I build a train and I design a train, then of course I should make the money from the train or something.
That's from Atlas Shrugged.
Oh, is that what it is?
Atlas Shrugged is the one where they nerd out about trains. That was what was so funny about that they remade Atlas Shrugged now and like trains matter, and just like, no, trains don't matter.
Trains don't matter anymore.
Like if they made about 4x4 trucks, it would.
But he was the designer of the rail that it went on, or then also the train.
Reardon Steel.
Yeah, Reardon Steel. Was it the type of steel, or was that the character name?
Hank Reardon was his name.
Oh, okay.
And he designed a steel, a kind of steel that would be great for railroads. And then America got jealous and tried to steal the formula from him, because he said that it wouldn't be fair to other steel mills. And so Hank's thing was like, well, you can just design your own. I did.
Yeah.
Just design your own steel. I made a better steel, so I'm going to sell it. Basically, all I got out of the Ayn Rand books was that, hey, if you got somebody that's doing something really great, why don't you just get out of the way and just let them do it? And he lived in a world where, much like our world, 1 million people got in his way.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of just Dad, look, do you want the steel or not?
I just remember it being very confusing, and I never did understand
I think it was the Fountainhead that it has an 80-page monologue, and just where is the editor for this thing?
Yeah, who?
I got your point 20, 30 pages ago, lady.
But then they said when she passed away or she got really old, she didn't believe in socialism at all. And then she was on Social Security or something, and she was saying that she had spent her whole life, preaching against this, and then it's what saved her in the end or something.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what, whenever you hear about...
That's hearsay,
whenever you hear about objectivism, if you've ever read her books, she's the type of what would Groucho say? He just goes, I would never be part of an organization that would have me.
Yeah.
And just objectivism was one of those things that she formed because all the writers were doing it. L. Ron Hubbard said, hey, the only way to make money nowadays is if you start a cult.
Yeah, start your own religion, I think is what he said. And they were playing, apparently him and Ray Bradbury and other guys played poker or something. Yeah, and they were the only way you can make money is to start a religion. And hey, then he'd come up with Scientology.
And she came up with objectivism, which was kind of... Ditko's the only person I know that took it seriously.
And he took it way serious. I mean, he did comics about it that went on forever, and it was there was no grays. If you were either totally evil or totally good.
Yeah, it was all black and white.
Everything's black and white.
I remember this finding out about this way after it came out and picking it up.
Yet again, I'm sure I bought that off the stand.
See, just I don't know how you had because around this time it was this was the switch between the direct market.
It was the switch between them, but I mean, they still made everything available. There was only, I'm trying to think of.
Well, I think that where I lived in Hudson, we only had one comic rack, one spinner rack, and I had to go to C3 in Hickory, which was a direct market.
Yeah.
And they didn't have Long Shot.
Now, I do remember when the direct market started, and there was two books, and I know one of them was Khazar, or Khazar, or however you want to say it.
I like this. This is a Zoid.
Oh, cool.
The Japanese.
Yeah.
The
Zoids.
And that might be from Transformers, but I don't know. It also might be a Kirby thing because there's some Kirby-esque. So
yeah,
that might be an early Fantastic Four thing.
Yeah, it does look like a pogo plane or something. But there was the direct, I remember the only exclusive ones that you had to buy at the comic shop was Marvel Fanfare, which was on really nice paper and was expensive, but you could only get it at a comic shop. And I remember Khazar, and I don't remember there being another one. There might have been another one at one point. Oh, it was Micronauts. Micronauts became a direct book.
Okay.
but so that you could only buy them at a comic shop. You couldn't buy them on the newsstand because they had such a small print run, is what they were thinking.
I think that my main, like you were probably working there at the time at B. Dalton and Lenore Mall.
Yeah.
Continuity, which was...
Oh, yeah. Continuity Comics.
I remember getting this, this was a one-page pin-up thing in the Marvel Age Annual, and I remember picking it up for this.
So you've been a big fan of Arthur Adams for a long time, man.
Yeah, but it was a slow burn. It was like those. It was those two. It was those annuals
Yeah.
in 1995.
Yeah.
And then me playing catch up.
Yeah.
And then I thought this was kind of cool that they added all of his entries for the Ohatmu, the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, and all the entries that he drew. Which I probably traced these about 30,000 times.
Yeah. You and Rob Liefeld.
Shh. What's crazy about the official handbook is that most of them were drawn by Joseph Rubinstein.
Yeah.
And so like most of them were like of a pose like this. And I still draw characters
In those poses.
in those poses. Like it's burned into my brain because I drew them a million times as a kid.
Well, there was the Marvel book, Marvel Universe handbook, and then there was also
Mojo for you.
Who's Who in DC Comics.
Right.
And so everybody was drawing folks that way because of that.
This one I remember picking up when it came out. And it was like just a one-off. Of Cloak and Dagger, which were two kids that got their powers from drugs, and then retroactively made mutants because that was more cool.
That sounded better.
Yeah, I don't remember this at all for Overstreet. But then again, I didn't buy Overstreet.
Yeah, if it's and Overstreet was actually a pretty boring comics magazine about comics because it was pretty much just a guide.
Yeah, it was just
a price guide. So there really wasn't a whole lot to it. There might have been an interview with a couple of illustrations, but
and I don't remember these.
I remember seeing them, but I didn't even realize they did them.
They were inked by Klaus Janson. No wonder.
Yeah, there you go.
These are. I was about to say these are very Klaus Janson-y. And I don't remember this. I do remember Marvel Saga, but like 25. I think I mostly got through like 1 through 10, like the first year's worth.
Yeah, I've had no interest in Marvel Saga.
Well, Marvel Saga was really cool that it took panels from each comic and like in continuity, like
yeah, how all this happened.
The history of like Marvel. So like like if this was happening in Fantastic Four,
then this is going on over here. But at the same time, it was also kind of that grand design thing that the guys have done recently. That it was like a shorthand of the Marvel universe of you get caught up on all of this. Which, I mean, comic books for guys, or even for girls, I guess, is kind of like, the stories are kind of like a soap opera. It just keeps going on. It's like Batman always going on. But to me, you watch a soap opera, you come in on the middle of it, you watch Young and the Restless today, then you're going to know what's happening now. But you're not going to know 30, 50 years of backstory, and who necessarily wants to go back and read all that?
I remember my girlfriend, when I was 17, we were sitting around talking comics, and she didn't know what we were talking about, so I handed her like half a year's worth of like West Coast Avengers.
Yeah.
And then she got hooked, and I'm like, oh my God, it worked.
It worked. It's what they're supposed to do.
I didn't think that would work.
Oh, there's a great Godzilla. That was beautiful.
It's like that. 58. But I like how they put in the pencils and like how like little is in the shading film. Mutant Mayhem.
But and that picture's been used how many times for how many things?
Yeah, I hope he made a lot.
Yeah, because that's right up there with Keep On Truckin' or something.
Yeah, he was commissioned to do this poster. So I'm hoping that he got paid. But a lot of people, like, they just would take images from the comic.
Yeah.
And make into posters. And then Classic X-Men was, when X-Men was like pretty hot, they started like doing reprints of X-Men. But then what was really cool was they had cool people do the covers, and here's like the first issue. Art Adams did the first, and then there would be like a frontispiece. And then every issue came with like a 6 to 8 page extra story that kind of fit in.
I never liked the extras.
There were some that were really neat, but yeah, it's like they definitely stunk of hey kid, we'll give you 6 pages to, you know.
Well, no, I just remember like Bo and Scott Hampton drawing them, and no offense to Bo and Scott Hampton because they can draw circles around me, but I didn't want to see them draw the X-Men.
Yeah,
they drew very realistically, and it was kind of boring, I thought. But
there were some that I remember like really enjoying, but I don't remember any of them right now.
Okay, so that was okay. There was like an anniversary, and they did all the 25th anniversary, and every cover of that month had that border to it. And do you know people that have like collected like all of those, or all of the assistant editor month ones?
I know people that usually like have picked up the cool ones, like G.I. Joe had Snake Eyes.
Yeah, of course, you know.
But I don't know of anybody that picked up all of them.
I've heard of people doing that, hunting down every one of them. And then like the kids' books, like the Star comics of Heathcliff and stuff like that are the ones that are really hard to find, which is really kind of weird.
Yeah, that is kind of...
That you would, the big expensive book would be the kitty book, because the kitty books didn't stay together long. The kids.
But then again,
left
I
them up.
shouldn't doubt it, because like people just collect the weirdest crap. I always liked Thunderbird. That Thunderbird showed up, and there was like a rocket launching, and Wolverine was going to jump on it, but Wolverine has a healing factor, so like it wouldn't have burned him up. And this guy goes, "Well, I'll jump on it then if Wolverine can do it," and everyone goes, "You're going to die," and then he died.
And he died. But it was also, I think that was because I don't know if Chris Claremont was writing it by then or Roy Thomas had written them. But anyway, he just basically...
No, I don't know.
Because it was right at the beginning when they... Because
Right.
I'm trying to think of... Because Dave Cockrum was drawing it.
Well, let me see. That writer, Chris Claremont. But you see, like, they don't show the interior. So like,
For the interior book.
But that would have been around the 3rd issue of...
Yeah, it was like they wanted somebody to die like right off the bat to prove that this was a dangerous world for the X-Men. And so yeah, Thunderbird did die. Didn't he have a brother that came up later, like Warpath?
Yeah, Rob Liefeld brought him back. Warpath. Well, they say that Lynn Wein is the plotter.
Yeah, that's who it was. I knew it wasn't Roy Thomas.
Oh, and that's what John Bolton did the backup for that one.
Yeah, see, John Bolton is kind of boring. He's a boring artist.
Very, very talented.
Very talented. He's a British artist, but I just remember thinking, I thought all
James
the
Fry,
stories.
same problem.
Same problem, boring. It's like they tried to do a more slice of life or something. The little snippets in the back were like supposed to be these little slice of life stories.
Well, what do you want? You fight
I don't know. Yeah, I want something good. I want to know that, like, Professor X gets out of the wheelchair every now and then.
I remember this story right here that Guardian from Canada, no doubt, that he escaped them by he held himself in gravity and let the planet spin beneath him.
Yeah.
Just like, you could have just said fly away. That's fine. No, I'm going to get weird about it.
I'm going to get super sciencey.
And here's where John Byrne drew this issue, and then Kieran Dwyer, his stepson-in-law, drew the backup.
Oh, okay.
Or drew some pages in there.
Another boring artist.
But you see, that's what the problem was, and that's what a buddy of mine, Rick Levins, there was a Marvel style.
Yeah.
And it was not very dynamic.
No, not at all.
It was very blockish, and people stuck to it, and that's why Arthur Adams and like Frank Miller and guys like that like stood out. See that one right there, like even though that like Terry Austin inked it, that doesn't look very Arthur Adams.
Oh, it does to me, because he used to do this peak of her hair.
Oh yeah,
yeah, almost like the Shi'ar, almost like the aliens in there. And I always loved that story. I remember that story come out, and I bought like the original issues. That was one of the first comics I remember buying and reading. John Byrne and the X-Men. And see, at the time when that was all going on, X-Men was bi-monthly. There were 6 issues a year.
Yeah.
And they were hard to find, and they were really hard to find. And I remember picking up one at the run-in down at the hospital over on Mulberry Street.
Oh my gosh.
At the run-in. They had it at the run-in of all places. But no, my regular stores, there was a pantry on Harper that I went to. I went to Foothills Pharmacy, had DC Comics and Marvel. Dave Alt's drugstore had DC and Marvel, but mainly DC.
I had the Hudson Superette. That was it.
No, I had those. I had all those. And then that's why I could pick stuff. That's why I picked all this stuff up. And then, the Dave Alt's drugstore had just, a backlog of comics. They would have tons.
I don't know if you've seen it, but this introduces the Savage Land and introduces Sauron, the pterodactyl man.
Yeah.
And he was a brilliant scientist that turned himself into a dinosaur. And there was a Spider-Man story that came out much later, but people will put this online all the time, where Spider-Man confronts him and goes, "You're a brilliant geneticist. You can cure cancer. Why don't you cure cancer?"
Yeah.
And Sauron goes, "I want to turn people into dinosaurs. I don't want to cure cancer."
Yeah. You got to have motivation.
You gotta have that's his thing.
Sabu. But I remember reading this story and being really sad for the X-Men, because half of them get stuck in the Savage Land, which is in the center of the earth, and then the other half landed in the Antarctic. So they were crashed in the snow. And so each side thought the other part of the team had died for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
3 or 4 issues, which is probably 6 months. So they thought, Scott thought Jean was dead, and because they were separated. Jean and the Beast were on one side, and then all the rest of the team was in the Savage Land.
They don't mention stuff like that anymore. Well, continuity, after 30, 40 years, there's too much stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of people don't remember or realize that during the 90s, there was a Savage Land story where Magneto and Rogue, they kind of hooked up. They shacked up for
That was one of the first Jim Lee stories.
Yeah, and a lot of people forget that, and it's just no, that was
that was a thing. Yeah, they were an item. And see, she'd been a bad guy, so it was kind of made sense that she was attracted to a bad guy. So it made sense to me as a kid.
Yeah, this was the annual from the next year that I got again in Cary Beach, where the X-Men all got turned into kids, and they introduced Longshot onto the team. I remember this one blowing my mind.
I just remember thinking, man, they're putting Longshot on the team, and then they show up with Mojo and all that stuff, and you're like, oh, okay.
And they end up getting this is a G.I. Joe outfit.
It looks like a G.I. Joe outfit.
He was green. He was green, and his name was Sci-Fi. I guess Cypher there is borrowing Cyclops' old. They found a trunk full of crap. I guess from the disco era. I don't know, where you would have the Native American fringe. But they took over Shakespeare in the Park, and they had this big battle, and the audience all just stayed there because they thought it was part of the show. And then I thought it was weird that Wolverine here, he just got this weird Mojo mask, and he wasn't wearing any other clothes. Just a naked Wolverine.
And, John Byrne had even drawn him without a shirt on so that he was hairy. He drew him coming out of the shower or something in Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, it's
saga.
We're from the generation where, if someone, Hugh Jackman has played Wolverine for so long that everyone just has that in mind.
Yeah.
But in our generation, if someone goes, who should play Wolverine? It's just oh, Danny DeVito.
Danny DeVito. That's who they said, because he was supposed to be 5 foot tall and hairy, and kind of disgusting to a certain degree. It was kind of he wasn't just Wolverine in name. He was, and I remember that being a poster that they sold.
Yeah. Linda Medley painted it. And Linda Medley did this thing where she shot all the ink work on acetate. And so she did the inks under, the painting underneath, and then laid the
ink work over top it.
Mm-hmm. to make it pop. I remember getting that annual. And then here's where, like, the stories were stupid, but it was drawn by Art Adams, so you had to pick it up.
And that's what happens is you really like an artist or something, and you're like, oh, the story's kind of dumb, but
Yes, like
look at that.
I wouldn't have normally picked up Cloak and Dagger, but
look at that line work.
what was his name? Terminus?
Yeah, I think so. Terminus.
He was like a little yellow alien inside the head.
Yeah.
Terminus. Yes, Terminus.
Yeah, he landed on Earth and fought the Avengers.
I always thought that was great. That he's like, oh, I found this thing to do. Whack! Smashed him flat.
I always hated the High Evolutionary.
Did you see the new the latest Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, and hated him even worse then with his stupid stretch face, and I'm like, give him a mask. Come on.
It was like I like that they, because it's the High Evolutionary, they did like a Kirby.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because
You know, like what the heck is that?
well, I mean, that looks like a Micronauts ship.
Yeah, it does. I'm actually getting tired of turning pages.
You want me to start?
I was like, there's just a million. And what's crazy is that I think this annual came out in '88,
Yeah.
and so there's some original. There's no robots there that I think that
Look like actual
are
robots.
taken off from anything. There were several stories that had the X babies, where the X-Men were turned into kids.
See that stuff. I mean, they would do stuff like that and then wonder why people didn't take them serious.
I remember reading this interview. This was another Marvel Age thing. God, nerd. Ugh.
Somebody decided to paint it.
Yeah, I much prefer that.
Oh, that was, they put it together as a graphic novel for the 2 issues.
I've never
together.
seen that.
I think I remember seeing it now.
There's Bobby Chase. I remember at a convention, she had some stupid pet trick where she could pop her hip out of place. And I overheard it, and I said, you can do what? She goes, well, come here. And like I actually felt her hip pop out of place. I'm like, I'm 14. What is going on?
I'm 14. I'm damaged now. I need an adult.
And here he did two issues of X Factor. I was picking up X Factor, and it was one of those that for month to month I was like, why am I picking this book up?
Yeah, that happens at times. You go, why am I reading this?
And then
I can't remember what happened last month. Why am I reading this?
And then X Factor. There was an X Factor run that like took place on another world. It had nothing to do with anything, but that's right when I got a subscription to it. So I was stuck, and they go, this is a 12-issue maxi series. I'm like, so I'm in for the long haul.
Yeah, you're in here for a long story you don't care about.
Can't cancel. But yeah, 2 issues with Arthur Adams. Didn't mind that. Dinosaurs. There was a kid that could turn stuff into gold. He turned his poor puppy into gold.
Don't pet the dog, dinosaur boy, or gold boy.
Hoy. And then, God.
I'm telling you, yeah, that thing was everywhere.
Well, what's funny is that this is a different.
Slightly different.
Yeah, but it's like it's still like, well, they know.
He's got one arm in front of the other one instead of being perfectly.
That's what's
symmetrical.
so kind of gross about like that. We're constantly told to like draw new stuff, and people don't want new stuff. They just want the same crap over and over.
Exactly. Well, that picture of Wolverine, you could like have a cutout of that right now. It was life size, and somebody buy it off of you in 5 seconds.
And that was for the trade paperback.
Excalibur.
I remember this was like a
So many
perfect grade.
books.
Well, that was the It's funny that everyone like talks about the Avengers nowadays, but like back in these days, no one read the Avengers.
No, not at all.
No one, not until the Ultimates.
Yeah, the Ultimates kind of brought that back.
And Mark Miller doesn't really, no one like really says that, oh, thank you for bringing this back.
I'm sure Samuel L. Jackson probably told him thank you.
Here's yet another one where the X-Babies show up. Boy.
But you wonder why they think that's cool. Because, I mean, as a teenager, I just remember hating that. You know, oh my God, here come the X-Babies again. What is that about?
Yeah, I don't remember where that was used. Oh, I guess that was on the back of the Mojo Mayhem. Oh, here's another t-shirt.
Yep, another t-shirt. Belt print t-shirt. And I do remember that cover.
And that's what people don't understand, like why I'm so annoyed about whenever anyone talks about Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I grew up there during the 80s and 90s. Like I've seen Wolverine so much.
Yeah, there's so much Wolverine. And then they were just trying to do random stuff. It was like, oh, here's Wolverine in the 1940s. You know, that's what that's what we were getting.
Oh,
it's like, what? He's that old?
And here's the this is a possible future variant of one kid. There's Cyclops and Jean Grey had a kid named Nathaniel.
Yeah.
Which was transported to the future and then like raised differently. And so he is both Ahab and Cable.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And X-Man. But they're all from different futures.
Okay.
And they'll all show up in the same books. And just, it's...
Well, and wasn't Cable, like, wasn't he a villain at some point that he became like some... Who was the guy with the big headdress? Strife, yeah.
Yeah. He was like a clone or something. But Arthur Adams drew it, so you got to get it.
Yeah. But like I say, now that he's not doing the panel to panel work, and I do pick up the covers when I see them. If I see especially the Walking Dead ones, and they all apparently intersect, they all tie together. So I do pick them up. Just too cool.
I do dig that they put the bear pencils.
Yeah.
The bear thumbnails. I can't believe well, I guess you had to send it in for approval.
And I remember folks talking about having to have a fax machine because they didn't have the internet, so they would fax in what the pencil would look like.
I like how Dolly Parton still only has a fax machine, and if you want to get a hold of her, you got to fax her.
That's kind of crazy.
I saw her at a concert clip, and like she was between songs, and some guy way in the background goes, "Dolly, I love you," and she goes, "I love you too, baby, but I told you to stay in the trunk." That's so weird.
Funny.
And just like, man, it's making me tired. Like how much back matter, just like all the thumbnails and. Sketches for X-Men designs. Hoy.
That's a lot of work.
Trying to think of like where's the next
the next regular issue instead of backstory stuff, prelims and such.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone can even see that can even focus on that.
Yeah, because it's so small. Oh, okay. Other than the X-Men, this is what he was kind of known for.
Yeah, was it 2 issues or 4 issues?
I think it was 4.
Yeah, the Fantastic Four went like.
It was at least 2 issues, but it was right. Like Byrne had left, and Walt Simonson had taken over the Fantastic Four, and so but the new Fantastic Four was not who you would have thought.
Yeah. It was like designed like Ghost Rider, who was like a big thing back then.
Yeah, because they just rebooted Ghost Rider, and so it was big.
Wolverine, Hulk, and Spider-Man. So like,
but not Green Hulk, Gray Hulk,
who was smaller and smarter,
smaller and wiser. So, yeah,
that's me getting out of chairs.
Your back hurting. Ah.
And I think that those are two Kirby monsters for sure.
Yeah, they are. I seem to recall the orange one.
I think Walt Simonson, he wrote this, and like he asked Art, "What do you want to draw? Oh, giant monsters, aliens." Oh, he's got the sidecar.
Of all people, why would the Ghost Rider have sidecar?
Because I think that if he was behind the handlebars, I think stuff would start catching on fire.
Well, that's true.
Oh, wait a minute. There was something that reminded me. Yeah, this nasty.
Yeah, the Mothman thing?
Yeah, this Rugose looking wings. Just nasty. It's gross. You know, it made a sound like when it flew. Sugar, sugar. I get embarrassed by sound
effects.
Yeah, and like I never think about doing it in my own comics. Just like I need to be like Walt Simonson, just to, like add a sugar or a whamp. I
just remember and I think it was another Terminus comic, but it was the one with Terminus, and it was like a thaka boom. I remember that. There's not many sound effects you remember, but
good Lord.
But that's a big career of Arthur Adams at Marvel.
And it's not even all of it.
Well, not only that, he drew for the other companies too. There was times he would. I mean, he mainly did like Dark Horse and Marvel, but many different companies.
He did Monkey Man and O'Brien for Legend.
Yeah, that he owned, that he created and owned. And then also, like I was saying, he had done The Creature from the Black Lagoon. They decided to do like Universal Monsters, and he did that one. The Godzilla, yeah.
All my Arthur Adams books are in storage.
But it's a great book, and it looks really neat, and I think I'm going to have to pick one up now.
Yeah,
after seeing it.
My only gripe was that it came and I picked it up from the porch. I was like, oh crap! I don't know where I'm going to put this. Because
wherever you want to, it's a big book.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of goes where it wants to.
Yeah, it's a big book.
But yeah, like not to even have like all the stuff that he did in the '80s, but it's kind of nice that like the books are getting like 40 years old now.
Well, not only that, some of them are high. I mean, the prices of the original comics are so high now.
And so it's nice to have like kind of like a reading copy.
Yeah. Even if it's got the X-Babies in it.
Well, there are a lot of X-Babies.
There's a lot of X-Babies. But pretty cool book. Thanks for coming by, Joel. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you bringing that. And now I got something else I need to find online. But just wanted to kind of talk comics and a couple of local guys here just talking comics. So thanks for coming, man. Appreciate it.